Module 6, breeding and genetics in snail production. Study objective: to investigate the genetic diversity in snail population and pinpoint genetic indicators linked to favorable characteristics like growth rate, shell color, disease resistance, and reproductive capabilities. Additionally, to delve into the inheritance patterns governing vital traits in snails and elucidate the genetic foundations underlying the diversities. To devise breeding methodologies such as selective breeding, hybridization, and genetic manipulation for the enhancement of desirable traits and overall enhancement of snail production. Furthermore, to evaluate the inheritability of diverse traits in snails and gauge the genetic relationship between these traits, thus furnishing guidance for selective breeding initiatives. These research goals serve as a framework for conducting studies on breeding and genetics within snail farming. By prioritizing these aims, researchers can contribute to the development of genetically superior snail varieties, improve breeding practices, and sustainable genetic management approaches within the snail farming sector. Now, Unit 1, breeding methods and selection criteria. Breeding and genetics significantly impact the outcome of snail production, influencing traits like growth rate, disease resistance, and other desirable characteristics. Here are key aspects to consider in snail breeding and genetics: selection of breeding stock. Initiate your breeding program with high quality breeding stock that possesses the desired trait. Seek snails that exhibit favorable growth rate, high reproductive potential, and resistant to diseases. Choose individuals with appealing shell characteristics in terms of size, shape, and color. It is critical to ensure that the selected snails are free from genetic defects or diseases. Breeding system. Snail breeding can be conducted using various systems such as individual pairing, group mating, or mass mating. The choice of breeding system should align with the factors like snail species, breeding objectives, and available resources. Consider genetic diversity, management simplicity, and lineage tracking when deciding on the suitable breeding system. Live breeding and outcrossing. Live breeding involves breeding closely related snails to maintain a specific trait with a population. While this stabilizes and enhances desired trait, it may raise the risk of inbreeding. In contrast, outcrossing involves mating snails from different lineages to introduce genetic diversity and mitigate inbreeding risk. A balanced approach that incorporates body breeding and outcrossing is often adopted to maintain genetic health and maximize desired traits. Selective breeding. Selective breeding entails pairing and mating snails that exhibit desired traits, aiming to enhance those traits in subsequent generations. Successful selective breeding necessitates meticulous record keeping, performance evaluation, and identification of superior individuals for breeding purposes. Traits commonly targeted for selection include growth rate, reproductive performances, shell quality, disease resistances, and tolerance to environmental conditions. Genetic improvement. Genetic enhancement in snail production can be achieved through methods like family-based selection, individual selection, progeny testing. Family-based selection focuses on choosing breeding stock based on the performance of their offspring. Individual selection involves around selecting the best performing individuals based on their own traits. Progeny testing evaluates the performance of offspring from diverse breeding pairs to identify superior genetic lines. Genetic diversity. Maintaining genetic diversity is crucial to preventing inbreeding depression and upholding the overall health and adaptability of the snail population. Regularly introduce new genetic material by practicing outcrossing or acquiring snails from different sources. Enhance genetic diversity, contribute to greater resistance against diseases and environmental stressors. Disease resistance. Incorporating disease resistance into the breeding program is essential for the sustainable production of snails. Select snails that have demonstrated resistance or tolerance to common diseases within the breeding population. Monitor the health status of the breeding stocks and implement appropriate biosecurity measures to minimize the risk of disease introduction. Record keeping and data management. Thoroughly document your breeding program, including pedigree information, performance data, and other pertinent details concerning the breeding stock. This aids in tracking genetic progress, making informed breeding decisions, and identifying the most promising breeding lines. Breeding methods. Mass selection. This approach involves choosing breeding stock based on their overall performance, irrespective of their familial relationships. Snails with desirable traits such as rapid growth, high reproductive potential, and disease resistance are selected for breeding. Mass selection is relatively straightforward and suitable for small-scale operation. Family selection. Family selection entails grouping snails from different families or lineages and selecting based on their offspring performance. It allows for the assessment of genetic potential within specific lineages. Progeny testing. Progeny testing involves evaluating the performance of offspring from various breeding pairs. Snails from selected breeding pairs mate, and their offspring are assessed for traits of interest such as growth rate, shell quality, or disease resistance. The progeny performance assists in identifying superior breeding lines. Reciprocal recurrent selection. This method is employed to improve specific traits in both male and female snails simultaneously. It entails multiple rounds of mating, selection, and recombination. The best performing males and females from different families are mated, and their offspring are evaluated over several generations to achieve genetic enhancement. Selection criteria. Growth rate. Swift growth is a prized trait in snail farming as it reduces production cycles and enhances productivity. Show snail with a proven record of rapid and efficient growth, showcasing the ability to convert feed into biomass effectively. Reproductive performance. Snail reproductive performance is pervaded for maintaining and expanding the snail population. Opt for snails displaying high fertility, strong egg-laying capacity, and a high rate of hatchability. When assessing reproductive performance, consider factors like the number of clutches per year, clutch size, and offspring survival rate. Shell quality. Shell characteristics encompassing size, shape, and color significantly influence market appeal and value. Favor snails boosting desirable shell traits align with consumer preferences, while avoiding snails with shell abnormalities or deformities. Disease resistance. Disease resistance stands as a critical trait for ensuring overall snail health and survival. Select snails with demonstrated resistance or tolerance to prevalent disease within your farming environment. Consistently monitor the health status of your breeding stocks and prioritize disease resistance as a key selection criteria. Environmental adaptability. Snails displaying adaptability to various environmental conditions exhibit greater resistance and survival rate. Show snails that showcase tolerance to temperature fluctuations, humidity levels, and other environmental factors pertinent to your farming system. Genetic diversity. Safeguarding genetic diversity is vital for the long-term health and adaptability of the snail population. Avoid excessive inbreeding by selecting breeding stock from diverse lineages, fostering genetic variation, and mitigating the risk of detrimental effects. Economic trait. Account for economic traits relevant to your production and market requirement. This trait may encompass meat quality, taste, or other factors influencing market values and consumer preferences. During the implementation of breeding method and the selection of breeding stock, comprehensive record keeping, performance monitoring, and periodic assessment of the breeding program's success are essential. Collaborating with experts in snail breeding or genetics can provide valuable guidance in designing and implementing an effective breeding program tailored to your specific objectives. Thank you.